The unexpected warning. The vast expanse of the Galactic Council building shimmered under the pale light of distant stars. Ambassador Ethan Halloran had walked its halls countless times, but tonight something felt different. The air seemed thicker, charged with an unusual weight. The usual hum of activity, the ceaseless movement of delegates and advisors, had given way to an eerie calmness. Ethan had always prided himself on his sharp instincts, honed over years of dealing with political games and interspecies negotiations. But tonight, his instincts were telling him that something was wrong. The corridors, which were typically filled with the hurried footsteps of staff and officials, were empty, almost as if the building itself was holding its breath. As he walked through the polished hallways, his mind wandered back to the recent events leading up to this strange night. The Galactic Empire, a vast, powerful faction that governed numerous star systems, had been increasingly focused on Earth in recent years. Ethan had known it. There had been whispers, silent murmurs in the shadows, about humanity's rapid technological advancements and the dangers they pose. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. The Council had debated the subject behind closed doors for months, but as always, the talks had gone nowhere. The human race was a mystery to the galactic community, a chaotic, unpredictable force that neither adhered to the conventions of the ancient species nor followed the same paths of technological evolution. Some saw this as a sign of strength, while others, especially the military factions, saw it as a potential threat. Ethan reached his office, the door sliding open with a soft hiss. The space was modest compared to the grandiose rooms of the Council's higher-ups, but it was his sanctuary. He entered and placed his hand on the scanner, the cool touch of the metal surface sending a jolt through him. The door closed behind him, and he took a deep breath, the weight of the day settling over him. But as he walked toward his desk, a small blinking light on his computer caught his eye. An urgent message. Frowning, he sat down and swiped his hand across the terminal. The holographic screen blinked to life, and the message popped up. The sender was anonymous, but that was not what made his heart skip a beat. It was the subject line. Classified. Operation Genesis. Immediate attention required. Ethan's stomach tightened. The word Genesis rang in his mind, but he couldn't quite place why. He had seen it before in documents, deep within the Empire's military records. It was always associated with the most secretive, high-level operations. With a sigh, Ethan opened the message, his fingers trembling ever so slightly as the screen flickered. The message itself was simple. The Empire plans to neutralize Earth. A fleet has been assembled. Launch date, 90 Earth days. He couldn't breathe. His mind raced to understand what he was seeing. The documents that accompanied the message were laced with military codes and encrypted files, far too high of a clearance for him to view easily. But the words were clear. Earth was being targeted. For years, humanity's rapid rise had been a subject of quiet concern among the Council's senior members. Earth's scientists had made breakthroughs at a rate that no one had anticipated. In just under 250 years, they had gone from inventing the wheel to discovering faster-than-light travel. Their technological curve was staggering, and that, Ethan knew, had made them a target. He leaned back in his chair, trying to process the gravity of what he was reading. Earth had never been a threat. At least, not in the traditional sense. Humans were violent, yes, but they had also proven themselves capable of great ingenuity and compassion. Their history was filled with contradictions. Wars fought in the name of peace, inventions that were meant to destroy but were later used for healing, civilizations torn apart, only to rebuild stronger than before. But to the Empire's military, none of that mattered. What mattered was Earth's potential. They had studied humanity for decades, watched their television broadcasts, intercepted communications, tracked military movements. The reports came in regularly, always the same conclusion. Humanity had grown too fast, and its unpredictability posed a significant risk. The military's plan, as detailed in the message, was precise. A fleet, hidden in the Proxima Centauri system, had been preparing for months. The strike would be swift, with little warning. In 90 days, Earth would be destroyed, its people wiped out before they could pose any further danger. Ethan couldn't allow that to happen. Earth was his home, and while he had never visited the planet directly, he had come to understand it in ways few others could. His study of human history, their achievements, their failures, their dreams, had made him both an ambassador and an advocate for their survival. But what could he do? The military faction of the Galactic Empire held significant sway over the Council, and any attempt to oppose them would be met with fierce resistance. Ethan's hands trembled as he scanned the rest of the documents. He needed proof, something irrefutable, that humanity's potential for greatness outweighed their unpredictability. A soft ping from his computer interrupted his thoughts. Someone was approaching. Ethan quickly transferred the files to his personal device, ensuring no traces were left behind on the terminal. He wiped the system clean just as the door to his office slid open. Admiral Turin, the head of the military division, stood in the doorway, his cold, reptilian gaze fixated on Ethan. Turin had always struck him as a calculating and ruthless individual, the embodiment of the military's priorities. His presence here, so late at night, was no coincidence. "Ambassador Halloran," Turin said, his voice devoid of warmth. "Still working. I see." Ethan forced a smile, standing up to greet the Admiral. "Just catching up on some reports, Admiral. Nothing urgent, I assure you." Turin's eyes narrowed, a predatory glint flashing in them. "Well, be careful. The Council is watching you, Ambassador. They expect you to handle your duties responsibly." Ethan swallowed hard, fighting to keep his composure. "Of course, Admiral. I'll be sure to get some rest." After a tense moment, Turin turned and left the room. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Once the door closed behind him, Ethan sat back down at his desk, his mind spinning. He had to stop the invasion. He had to find a way to prove to the Council that Earth wasn't just a planet to be destroyed. It was a planet that could change everything. But how? The clock was ticking, and he had only 90 days to find the proof he needed. A dangerous alliance. The corridors of the Galactic Council's headquarters felt colder as Ethan Halloran walked toward the elevator. His mind buzzed with the implications of the message he had just read. The fate of Earth rested in his hands, and yet, as he moved toward the lower levels of the building, he couldn't shake the feeling that his every step was being watched. The military had eyes everywhere, even in the most secure corners of the Council. Admiral Turin's visit wasn't a coincidence. He had been there to assess, to test. Ethan felt the weight of the Admiral's scrutiny bearing down on him, and the clock was ticking louder with every passing moment. Ethan had known for years that the Galactic Empire was a massive, sprawling entity, where power was concentrated in the hands of the military elite. The Council, though influential, was often a mere puppet to the Empire's will. The military's decision to neutralize Earth wasn't just a political maneuver. It was a cold, calculated strategy born out of fear. Fear of the unpredictable, of the human race's potential to disrupt the galactic order. His mind returned to the message, to the detailed plans for the invasion. The military wasn't interested in peace talks. Theirs was a solution of extermination. Earth's rapid technological rise had made it a prime target, and now it was only a matter of time before the fleets moved in. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Ethan stepped into the sleek, metallic interior. His reflection in the polished surface of the doors was a stark contrast to the weight in his chest. He wasn't just a diplomat anymore. He was now Earth's last hope. He had to act fast. The lower levels of the Council were far more secretive, tucked away behind layers of security. Here, the real decision-makers worked in silence, behind closed doors, away from prying eyes. Ethan's destination was the scientific division, more specifically, Director Elara Wells. He had known Elara for years. She was one of the few people he could trust, someone who understood the intricacies of both science and diplomacy. When the elevator reached its destination, the doors opened, revealing a darkened corridor lined with data consoles and research stations. As he moved toward Ilara's office, he passed by several scientists engrossed in their work, their holographic displays flickering with complex data. None of them noticed his presence, all too absorbed in their respective fields. The silence here was almost palpable. This was the heart of the Council's research and development, where new technologies were studied and old ones perfected. It was where the future was shaped. Ethan reached Ilara's office, a small but functional space filled with stacks of reports and data crystals. She sat behind a large desk, her eyes glued to a holographic display showing images of Earth's surface. Her dark hair was pulled back into a neat bun, and she looked as focused as ever, even though it was well past midnight. "Ilara," Ethan said, his voice breaking the silence. She looked up, her brow furrowed in surprise. "Ethan, what are you doing here so late?" "I need your help," he said, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. "And I need it fast." Ilara stood up, sensing the gravity of his words. "What's going on?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, then pulled out his personal device. He projected the files from the anonymous message onto the surface of the desk, each one filled with charts, battle plans, and military assessments. Ilara's eyes narrowed as she scanned the data. "They're really going to do it, aren't they?" she murmured, her voice tinged with disbelief. "They're assembling a fleet as we speak," Ethan replied. "The invasion is set to launch in 90 days. I need to find a way to stop it, Ilara. But I can't do it alone." She stood still for a moment, processing the information. "The Empire is afraid of Earth's potential. They've been watching us for years. But this is different. They've never acted this quickly before. Why now?" Ethan looked at her, the desperation in his eyes. "Because we've pushed beyond their understanding. Our technological advances, they don't make sense to them. We're unpredictable. We don't follow the rules they've set. And that's what terrifies them." Ilara nodded. "I've been tracking Earth's progress. Our breakthroughs, our rapid development. It's unlike anything they've ever seen. But it's not just technology they're afraid of, is it? It's the human spirit. The drive to keep pushing, to keep creating, even when it seems impossible." Ethan smiled grimly. "Exactly. But they don't see it that way. They only see danger." She paced back and forth, thinking. "I've been studying human history, your culture, your art. The Empire sees your wars, your violence, and they assume that's all you are. But they're wrong. I've seen the other side of humanity. The compassion, the innovation, the willingness to rebuild after destruction. But I don't have the proof I need to present to the Council. If we're going to stop this, we need to show them something that even the military can't ignore." Ethan's mind raced. "We need to find something. Something that proves Earth's value goes beyond its potential for war. We need to show them that humanity is more than just a weapon. It's a force for good." Ilara's eyes sparkled with determination. "I think I know where we can start." She motioned for Ethan to follow her as she led him deeper into the facility. They passed rows of glowing data crystals, each one holding centuries of research. "The military focuses on Earth's weapons and conflicts," she said, "but they've ignored the other aspects of your civilization, the things that make you human." They stopped in front of a large terminal, where Ilara began to access a series of encrypted files. "I've been monitoring Earth's medical advancements. Your doctors are doing things that no one thought possible. I have data here that could change everything. The Empire's military only sees humans as a threat because of your wars. But they don't understand your capacity for healing, for growth." As she spoke, a holographic display filled the room with images of human doctors performing complex surgeries, using technology to heal injuries that would be fatal to other species. "You've found ways to regrow limbs, cure diseases that were once untreatable. And that's just one example." Ethan watched the images with awe. I didn't know this was happening. We've been so focused on survival that we've missed the true potential of our advancements. Ilara nodded. That's the key. If we can show the Council that humanity's true strength lies in its ability to heal, to innovate, and to adapt, maybe we can change their perspective. But Ethan knew they were running out of time. We need more than just medical breakthroughs. We need something that shows the Council humanity's resilience in every aspect. Ilara paused, thinking. I have one more idea, something that could turn the tide. Ethan leaned forward, eager to hear her plan. What is it? Ilara gave him a determined look. I've been tracking Earth's cultural developments. Your art, your music, your literature. These are the things that truly define your species, and they're the things the Empire has never considered. They see Earth's violence, but they've never truly looked at your creativity. We need to show the Council that humanity's strength is rooted in its ability to create, to dream, and to overcome. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we'll do it. We'll find a way to show them that humanity is more than just a threat. It's a gift. The ultimate proof. The next few days passed in a blur. Ethan Halloran and Ilara Wells worked tirelessly to gather evidence that would challenge the Empire's perception of Earth and hopefully stop the invasion. They combed through human history, art, medicine, and culture, piecing together the many facets of humanity's potential. But every time they thought they were close to a breakthrough, the shadow of Admiral Terran loomed over them. The military was watching. The pressure was mounting. They spent long hours in the depths of the Council's archives, far away from the prying eyes of the military. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The fleet was already en route, hidden in the Proxima Centauri system, and in just over a month, they would strike. Earth would be reduced to nothing more than a memory. One evening, as Ethan sat in a dimly lit corner of the archive, his mind spinning with the weight of their task, Ilara entered, carrying a small data crystal in her hand. She looked worn but determined, her eyes alight with something Ethan hadn't seen in her before. I think I've found it, Ilara said, her voice calm but urgent. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. What is it? Ilara inserted the crystal into the terminal, and the screen flickered to life, showing a holographic display of an ancient human city, one that had been long destroyed. The images were grainy, but there was no mistaking it. The city had once been a thriving hub of creativity and innovation. This is Earth's past, Ilara explained. This city was the birthplace of some of humanity's greatest artistic and intellectual movements. The people here were not just survivors of war or disease. They were dreamers. They imagined a world beyond what they could see. And they built it. Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. What happened to it? Ilara hesitated before answering. It was destroyed in a war that humans now consider a dark chapter in their history. But what's important is what happened afterward. The people didn't give up. They rebuilt. They created again, stronger than before. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I've seen similar stories in Earth's history. It's a pattern. Ilara nodded. Exactly. Humanity's greatest strength isn't just in their ability to fight. It's in their ability to endure, to rise from the ashes of destruction, and create something new, something better. Ethan watched the holographic display, his mind racing. This was the evidence they needed. This was the proof that humanity's potential extended far beyond the military might the Empire feared. It was the very essence of what made humans unique, their unyielding spirit, their refusal to be broken. As he absorbed the data, his mind wandered back to Earth, to the stories he had read, the art he had studied, the music that had moved him in ways he couldn't explain. Humanity had its flaws, yes, but it was those very flaws that made them who they were. Their capacity for compassion, for change, for growth. These were the traits that the Empire couldn't understand. And these were the traits that could save them. But they couldn't do it alone. Ethan turned to Ilara, a look of determination in his eyes. We have to present this to the Council. We can't waste any more time. Ilara's face hardened. And what if the military refuses to listen? What if Admiral Turin decides to stop us before we get the chance? We'll have to make them listen, Ethan replied, his voice firm. The military can't be allowed to destroy Earth, not when it still has so much to offer. This isn't just about saving Earth anymore. It's about changing the Empire itself. They knew it wasn't going to be easy. The military had the upper hand, and the Council was divided. Some members would see Earth as a threat, while others, like Ilara, understood the deeper truth about humanity's potential. But the military's influence was undeniable. If they wanted to stop the invasion, they would have to convince not only the Council, but the entire Empire. The following day, Ethan and Ilara arranged a secret meeting with Professor Thomas, the head of the Council's Cultural Studies Division, who had been an ally throughout their efforts. He was the key to unlocking the hearts and minds of the Council members who still saw Earth as nothing more than a chaotic, dangerous planet. Thomas had spent his life studying humanity's cultures, their art, their history, and he knew more than anyone what made them unique. They met in a hidden conference room deep within the archives, far from the prying eyes of the military. Thomas stood at the front, looking older than Ethan had ever seen him, but his eyes still burned with the same passion they had when Ethan first met him. "I've been thinking about what you said," Thomas began, his voice low and steady. "Humanity is not the threat the Empire believes it to be. I've seen the evidence, but to change the minds of those in power, it's going to take more than just a few files and data points." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We need a compelling case, something that even the military can't ignore." Ilara stepped forward, holding up the data crystal. "This is it, the key to showing the Council the truth. Earth's potential for greatness lies not just in its technology or its weapons, but in its humanity." Thomas studied the crystal for a moment before nodding. "I studied Earth's history, and you're right. It's not just about wars or conflicts. It's about what humans can create in the face of adversity. Their music, their art, their resilience. That's what makes them special. And that's what we need to show the Council." With the data in hand, the three of them made their way to the Council's chambers. The air was thick with tension as they entered the room, where the Council members were already gathered. The usual quiet murmur of voices ceased as they entered, and all eyes turned toward them. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "Honorable Council, we stand here today to present something that will change everything you think you know about Earth. The human race is not the threat you believe it to be. They are not the chaotic, dangerous force you fear. They are something far greater. They are a civilization capable of creating, of rebuilding, of overcoming." He gestured toward Ilara, who inserted the data crystal into the terminal. The room was filled with holographic projections, images of Earth's greatest achievements, its art, its culture, its medicine. The stories of humans rising from the ashes of destruction, creating beauty out of chaos. "We've seen their capacity for violence, yes," Ethan continued, "but we've also seen their capacity for compassion, for change, for hope. They fight wars, but they also heal. They destroy, but they also rebuild. And that is what makes them different. That is what makes them worth saving." For a long moment, there was silence. The Council members exchanged glances, murmurs of disbelief rising in the room. But then, as the images continued to play, something shifted. The military factions remained stoic, but a few of the more open-minded members seemed moved by what they saw. It was as if the very essence of humanity had been laid bare before them. Admiral Turin, who had been sitting at the back of the room, stood up abruptly. His cold gaze was fixed on Ethan. "You are asking us to risk everything for a species that cannot be trusted. They have no order, no structure. They are unpredictable. But that is their strength," Ilara interjected. "Their ability to adapt, to think beyond the established rules, is what sets them apart. The Empire doesn't understand that, but if we destroy them now, we will lose something much greater. We will lose the potential for growth, for collaboration. We will lose a species that can change the Empire itself." The room fell silent again. And then, slowly, the Council began to speak, voices rising in heated debate. But in the end, it was clear. The seeds of change had been planted. The Empire's military might would no longer decide the fate of Earth. The invasion fleet was called back. Humanity had been given a chance.